All right, everyone. I am super excited to be here today to talk about how to build a better business with great bookkeeping. Bookkeeping and accounting, I think, for you guys is one of the biggest struggles in your business. I know, when I'm talking to so many of you, the only thing that you kind of have in place is this once a year bookkeeper who was maybe your personal bookkeeper, a friend of the family, and you only talk to them just as you're calling them to set up your taxes, and then you do your taxes and you kind of have no clue what to expect. And, the truth is that it is not a good way to go for bookkeeping. We need you guys to kind of be more aware of things. We need you guys to be more aware of your numbers and how much you're making and how much you need to make for the life that you guys want to live, and also to run a healthy business. So I'm really excited to bring on my own bookkeeping team today. This is Michael and Sebastian with Bench. Michael is an account manager on the client success team, and he actually works with the business owners so that they get the most out of their Bench bookkeeping experience. And Sebastian works on the business development team, where he works with partners to bring in their audiences to the benefits of great outsourced bookkeeping. And, I know that so many of you are also probably doing the bookkeeping yourself, right? And not even sure what you're doing. Like maybe you signed up for QuickBooks and you never even want to really look at it. I know I had QuickBooks and I never looked at it. I just looked at like the random reports my bookkeeper sent, and I still wasn't even sure what I was looking at. So I'm really excited that we're going to dive into this today. So guys, just to get started, can you talk about the differences between bookkeeping and accounting?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And thank you for the warm introduction and for the anecdote about we hear the I had QuickBooks and didn't even want to look at an anecdote.
Yeah, I was so excited to cancel it. That was
every single thing. And I've seen QuickBooks, I'd probably be the same. I think one of the most important thing to understand about bookkeeping versus accounting is that bookkeeping is like the foundation and accounting is the house that you build on top of it. And you cannot build a house without a foundation. Bookkeeping is really the foundational tracking of your financial information and logging transactions in a categorized way. So what that looks like is generally for all businesses, an income statement and a balance sheet. For some larger or specific businesses, there will be other reports, but really tracking your income and expenses, assets and liabilities in a detailed way. Without being able to track that, nothing can be built on top of it. And when I say that accounting is the house that goes on top of that, where having solid bookkeeping is keeping track of the income, the expenses, the assets and liabilities, an accountant can then go in and say they can look at an asset that you have. So a common example for this is a contractor buys a large piece of equipment that's valued at $10,000, and the accountant can look at it and say, okay, I can depreciate the expense of that over a period of time. That's a really common example of one accounting function, but they need those numbers to start with.
Right.
And that's really the foundational piece. It's really, really essential to the long-term success of a business. If I like the old Peter Drucker quote that says, what can't be measured can't be managed. So and that's something that, if we're looking to build, profitable, efficient businesses here, then we need to know exactly what we're doing, where we're spending our money, and where our money's coming from, so that we can optimize and reduce expenses and increase income from those places that are actually working for us.
Yeah, and one of the things that I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this kind of works hand in hand with, is I actually have my clients like regularly every quarter look for money leaks. So what are those subscriptions that they're signed up for that they're not using? What is a course that they signed up for that they forgot about and they haven't actually taken advantage of? What are those things that are just kind of draining their accounts? It might not even be big things, but like even yesterday, my client she told me she went through her stuff and she found this like $13 subscription, and she was paying for it every month. And, it's $150 over a year. It seems like not a big deal, but why have that in your accounts? And I think that, how do you guys help your clients check those? Or I think, how does your process help your clients sort of see those sooner?
I think that so this is a great example of a conversation that
I just thought of that. I didn't prep you guys for that one.
No, and that's fine. I personally, I just prefer to live in blissful denial about the number of things that I've subscribed to as Mr. Sebastian. Not a great way to run a business. Don't follow that. One thing that our clients really find a lot of value in. So if any of our listeners or participants are using Square or Stripe, those services charge a merchant fee off each transaction as they come in. So what hits your bank account isn't actually the revenue from the transaction; it's the revenue less the merchant expense.
Right.
So that can really cloud the level or what some of our business owners are seeing as their revenue and expenses, because when you're really getting a lot of transaction volume through those providers, then all of a sudden there's just kind of this invisible expense. So one thing that we do at Bench is we will take both the reports from the bank statement and we'll take the reports directly from Square and Stripe and we'll reconcile them. So when it says revenue, that is your top line revenue. That is what somebody paid for the service. And then all of a sudden that hidden cost of the merchant fee is no longer hidden anymore. And that's
a big one for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will have there will be separate ledgers within the Bench account. I'm not sure exactly which one off the top of my head would be for software subscriptions, but you'll be able to see all of those things categorized. So each month you'll be able to see how much money you're spending on software subscriptions or service subscriptions or what have you, or recurring expenses, so that you can trim where necessary.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what level of kind of bookkeeping is in place for everyone's business here, but I think one of the common misconceptions is that bookkeeping is easy. Because people could think, oh, I know that my subscription to Adobe should go into my software subscriptions, and my payment out to my contractor should, of course, be going to independent contractor expense. But like the adjustment that Seb had mentioned, as well as just balancing out your accounts, there's a whole aspect of reconciliation and actually making sure that transactions check out. That's all things that are super important and almost necessary, but they kind of go over people's heads because they look at the account and they think, oh, I could honestly do this myself. But that's where a bookkeeper would really come into play, really making sure that you have someone who's a master of that and you can really check those fine details, especially when you're using this information for taxes and business decisions. You want as accurate numbers as possible. And when you're missing 2% of your expenses every single month, that can really stack up over the course of the year, especially when you're in a scaling business.
And I was just thinking about it too, like another thing that's good about what you're doing is like, if you see us, if you see something in there that we need to ask our accountant about, like something that I think is an expense, but really isn't, like we can think we're getting deductions for things and buying stuff or, tracking it or thinking it's going to help us. And it's really not too, which is kind of, the other aspect of how we can be losing money or just kind of not taking care of our business in the right way. So I do think by looking at it monthly, by having another set of eyes on it, that's what I like. There was a couple times where you guys were like, you need to check with your accountant about this. And it was nice to be able to go to the accountant with specific questions. And I think that's another thing, I actually added like a whole section in one of my courses in my mastermind, like really addressing like, do you feel comfortable with your team? Like money is like really an intimate thing. Like you're bringing people into it and you want them to take care of it. You want them to take care of it. You want to feel trust. You want to feel like they have your back. And I think that, the way you guys have it set up, that's definitely a big priority for you. And, I think that's also just like another way that you're kind of catching those money leaks or, just being more cautious with your finances and aware of where your money's going and if it's really actually helpful to your business.
Yeah, and one of the things that we always really want to take pride in and really emphasize is that peace of mind that we want to provide for clients.
Yes.
I know, once again, bookkeeping can look really easy, but when you start looking into it and you search up what deduction is this and am I doing this right with the IRS, it can get pretty stressful.
And, just for what I was doing, I was like doing the worst kind of bookkeeping when I was on my own. I was literally like, I would track my income. So I thought like I was ahead of the game because I knew how much I was bringing in every month. But what would happen was that every year it was like the same torturous process where, I had a box with receipt or accordion, one of those like overstuffed accordion folders with receipts. And then I would have, a folder in my email where like if something came through there, I would like save it to expenses. But then I also had to look at like, you know, my credit card statements, and there was a lot of, you know, lines on those credit card statements to go through and figure out which category it was and make sure I didn't double count things or make sure I didn't miss things. And, you know, unfortunately, I was only doing this process once a year, the like weekend before I was going to my accountant. And every year, you know, originally I would start out in like January, February, contacting them. Then it would push back later because I was like, when am I going to have time? As my business got busier, I had less time to devote and more work to adding that all up. So as your business grows, like the work involved in bookkeeping grows too, and you don't really think about it. And like the last year, I was just like, I am freaking done with this, because it was like the same thing, an entire weekend every year where I had to like go through everything. And I would sit there racking my brain, like trying to remember things that were not necessarily like showing up in those statements. So like things like my cable bill, or maybe some transportation expenses, or my mileage and stuff like that, I would have to like all try to remember it. And that was also stuff that was draining my brain energy like every month, because it was always in the back of my head, like I better start now. And then because I wasn't going to him till March or April, I was already not started for the new year. So like, even though I thought I was going to do it again, by then I was like, F it, like forget it, like that's like purposeless. So for those of you who are on, you know, and if you're watching the replay, say replay, I'll come back and check any questions or comments later. You know, feel free to share, like, what are you doing for your bookkeeping process now? How are you keeping track of things? Do you just have like kind of an Excel file where you're like, oh great, like I have an Excel file, that's awesome, you know? And every year then I had to go back and like review what I did the year before to try to piece the puzzle together again. And you know, it's not even like, I actually love math. I love like adding things up. Like I thought it would be fun, and it ended up like, I ended up hating it, even though it was something that that should have been enjoyable, but I ended up hating it because it just made me feel so inept as a business owner that every year I had no clue, like I had to waste all that time. I had no clue what was going on. And it really was a huge, huge time drain. And just, once again, I think the stress and the like emotional piece of every month feeling bad that I wasn't doing it, like was just adding up. And, you know, it affects your confidence as a business owner when you're not, you know, doing the things that you should be doing to take care of your business. How do you guys feel that bookkeeping and your processes help save time for entrepreneurs so they're not, you know, draining their time and resources on this?
I think one thing that I'll just quickly chime in with there is that I know Michael will have a lot to say on this, but you've really captured, I think, one of the biggest points of value that we provide to our clients. I did not log on to NicoleLaloya.com and see Nicole Laloya Bookkeeper. That was not, and that, like, our clients started businesses to build something or to do something they were proficient at, or to build a specific business, and keeping good books on one's own is equivalent to just learning an entire other proficiency or level of accounting knowledge that like really is, you know, especially in today's day and age with solutions like Bench and other solutions in the market where you can get that off your plate and have it taken care of professionally. Like, absolutely, you know, if in a world where you want to focus on business coaching with your clients and your audience, and that's taking away time from that to be a bookkeeper is just not like, I don't think that's not something that any of the clients I've talked to have set out to do in their purview. And it's a time sink, and it takes them away from building the businesses that they love. So
yeah. And I think too, like for you guys who are on, like, I know that you guys want like to get to six figures. And then I know for those of you who are around that, like you want to get to, you know, multiple six figures. And the truth is that those people at those places are not doing their own bookkeeping. And it's just like, you know, sometimes you need to kind of put the systems in place before you're really there to open up new opportunities, open up new income opportunities. And the year that I started using bookkeeping, like my income was increased by 25%. And, you know, it's because like I didn't have to worry about that stuff anymore, you know? And for you guys who are like, well, I'll start this next year. I started in like September of the year because I needed to go, like when I started it, I had them do all the back months. And, you know, that was hard to find someone who would do that. That was like a huge project for an individual. But, you know, it can definitely be done. Bench does it. They just did it for me because I had a gap with my bookkeeper. and I'll go into more about that later, but you like, if you're thinking, well, there's just like one more quarter, what's a big deal? Let me wait till next year. That is not what you guys want to do, and I'd love to know, like, are you planning to change your bookkeeping practices? What would make bookkeeping easier for you? Leave us some comments, let us know. And if you guys have questions at any time, you feel free to drop them in the comments below too. And I think that another thing that is nice is it's all in one place, and is that part of the time-saving process that kind of people could just log in and have everything there, and it's not in an accordion folder, it's not in an email, it's not in, PayPal account and your credit card account.
Yeah, to go back to your question earlier in regards to just why bench and why outsource, I think it really comes down to that element of time, and also just the opportunity cost of that time and energy that you're putting into actually doing bookkeeping work. As I've said, people allocate their entire career to doing that type of work for other people. So imagining you doing that, as well as managing your business and all the other elements of that, there's a cost there. And you mentioned it, like as soon as you took this off your hands, you got that 20% increase because you can focus that time and attention to growing your business. I think that's really where outsourcing comes to play. I think, of course, with any new business, you have an element where you can actually take some of these things on yourself, where I think when you're just starting, you have maybe 10 transactions, 20 transactions. Honestly, you can do that on your own. But as soon as that gets to the point where you feel like you're spending too much time on actually completing that work on an ongoing basis and then doing that consistently, I think that's the key factor, where we have clients all the time where they reach out to us at the end of the year because they said they were going to do bookkeeping on their own. And then, of course, every month passes and that's another 20 transactions. That's another 40, 50, 60 as time flies by. And then at the end of the year, you're looking to reconcile 1,000+ transactions all at once.
It was definitely thousands of, like 1,000.
Right. And that's the classic story.
Credit card and the PayPal, and like I have PayPal and Stripe, so I'd have to go into like each of them. And then and that's what I also love is like you completely take that off my hands. I don't have to figure out how to get the reports from PayPal. I don't have to figure out how to get the reports from Stripe or my credit card or my bank. And that's 4 different processes just to pull the statements every month. So I think that's also another way to really make sure that you are doing what you need to do, and focusing on what you need to focus on, and saving, a lot of time and energy. And it's allowing yourself to build that efficient, profitable business.
Just quickly to chime in for any of the business owners who are watching us that are e-commerce sellers, one great example, or just if you have small transactions that your clients will make through online merchants. I remember one client coming to me and saying, I can't keep track of my books. And we were like, okay, well, we'll figure this out. This was, I'm thinking, 1.5 years ago. And we we looked at his 1 month of books that we did for the trial, and he had 10,000 PayPal transactions. And I was like,
oh my God.
Like, how are you ever? And so that's the thing when people start, and this fellow had a really successful online business, and with e-commerce sellers that have really successful online businesses, as you're all striving to build, once it starts to scale up and all of a sudden that tipping point happens and you're suddenly in the thousands of online transactions that I just don't wish that for anyone, that they have to carry good driving license on their own. I do wish the money. I don't wish the manual bookkeeping DIY instead of growing the business.
And actually, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, is that, a lot of my clients are starting to add in new income streams. I have different income streams, and, by looking at it monthly, I can see what is doing better, which income stream is profitable. If there's other income streams that are not as profitable, or that I should start to weed out, or where I can focus my energy on the income streams that are working right. And I think that that's another thing. It seems like you have these, you have a lot of income streams set up. For someone like him who's not even sometimes aware, you get like I've had a book on Amazon, and you get like random notifications. It's like not even easy to see, and you can be feeling good about certain areas of your business and not even like realize that, and there are things that you should be proud of or focusing on more, and you just have no clue, because once again, you're only looking at it on a yearly basis versus that monthly kind of check-in. So before we like start to wrap up, I wanted to kind of talk about like, what do you guys feel is, you know, like, where do you feel it is good to take care of your bookkeeping? How can you take care of it without without a team? Like, I do have an admin, I do have, you know, a project manager, but I see other people try to have their VA do their bookkeeping, or just have their, you know, have their virtual assistant do their bookkeeping, but they're not really trained in bookkeeping and not aware of like the laws and the different laws, and, you know, it can vary state to state, and they just think like, oh, let me have this person add up my expenses. And it seems like a good fix, a good solution versus you doing it. But how can you do it in a way that's safe and really secure for your business, and not just a random person saying, hey, I can actually do this?
And I can take this one.
Sure.
So my role at Bench specifically is actually not just talking about bookkeeping every day, but actually talking about the things on top of that. So I'll talk about payroll and invoicing, all this other stuff. And I think it's really a matter of having almost a dedicated service to these individual tasks, and making sure that you have someone who's really focused in on that work. You can find that jack of all trades, but it's going to be very similar to just using a software itself, where you'll have all these tools, or this person will have all these tools, but in the end, do they have the actual knowledge and the mastery over it to make the most out of those tools?
Right.
So that's where I think a service like Bench, but also just making sure that you are outsourcing this, that's where we would come into play, where it really is going to be an aspect of, you're going to have a team of 3 professional in-house bookkeepers, and they're going to be the ones actually doing this work for you on an ongoing basis. They're triple checking the work. You have 6 eyes on this every single month. And then from there, you can know that we have best practices internally to make sure that those merchant reports are reconciled, and that you're not double counting transfers from accounts, et cetera. Having that, once again, peace of mind in the back of your head is so important. And there's so many softwares out there. So with us in bookkeeping, but we have partners like Gusto at payroll, and we have a lot of different options to just like automate and have that person almost supporting you through this. It's so important to have that. And it's, being able to outsource that work out and making sure that you have, once again, the master of that. I think that's always the most important way to go, because you can find yourself just juggling all these things. And even if you're just outsourcing that to like a bookkeeper, like, yes, they'll have that level of mastery, but you're also focusing in on that one person and being extra dependent on them. That's another key factor, where if you have one bookkeeper doing all this work, or this one VA doing all this work, what happens when they go on vacation for 2 weeks?
Right.
Or what happens if they all of a sudden have to leave or do something else? You're dependent on that person, and you have to switch all of those different things. Whereas a nice little bonus is if you have a lot of different tools covering all these admin processes for you. If one of them isn't working to the best, you always have the ability to switch that, and you always have that flexibility as your business grows. I think having that, being agile in those cases, really does help.
Yeah, and that we've seen so many clients have success with that ecosystem of services for small businesses. It's, for a lot of our clients, it is Bench for bookkeeping, Gusto for payroll, FreshBooks for invoicing, and then say Stitch Labs or TradeGecko for inventory tracking for their e-commerce businesses. And that ecosystem does really help with their business. And the one thing that I did want to add on to what Michael said is when we talk about you talked about how should your audience handle bookkeeping, and both of us outsource it. Like, if we'd love for it to be with Bench, but just get it off your plate, is sort of our baseline position on it. Just it's not a core function. It's not a function that should be focused on by the person who's trying to grow the business and focus on what they're good at. And the one point about that Michael mentioned about the having one bookkeeper, there's the dependency on them, but there's also the fact that Michael had briefly talked about our best practices and experience, and one bookkeeper, a very good bookkeeper in your local area, might have 40 clients and be quite busy, maybe difficult to communicate with them, that the lead time might not be great. Your CPA might have trouble getting a hold of them. We've seen that a lot, even if they're good, and they're going to be on billable hours, so you never really know what we're paying. We serve almost 7,000 clients. So we do the books for almost 7,000 people every single month. We know what we see. We work with people who are all across different verticals, and our communication time, anytime you message your bench bookkeeping team, we'll get back to you within a business day. And the same with your accountant. We can give, one of the big points that our clients like is that we can send a read-only login to your bench account, to your accountant, and then they can log in. And if they just want to send us a message and not go through you to reach out to the bookkeeper directly and say, hey, question about the amortization schedule on this, then we can answer it without you having to be totally in the loop. So, we definitely get it off your plate, and we're certainly of the mind that bench is the best way to do that.
Yeah. And honestly, it just kind of reminded me when you were talking about like not having a person, on the team, or just using someone who's not really experienced. One of my clients last year, and I do have a lot of clients, and when they start investing in business support and business help, they have huge income increases. I've had clients literally go from 3,000 a month to 35,000 in a year. And like, when you're kind of still at the mindset of 3,000, you're not realizing the expenses that are increasing with the income, with the income growth. You're not realizing the taxes that are increasing. Like, if you were fine, of course, paying taxes once a year on 36,000, you're not going to be fine paying taxes once a year on 300,000. You want to make sure like you're on top of it and paying quarterly, and knowing what numbers to go to your accountant with. Cause I think that's another thing. And unfortunately, like, I'm going to be honest, like, I work with a lot of women clients, and a lot of us still have like that old school, like, this is what I had, that old school male accountant who really kind of had no faith in my business, like had no clue about online business and how quickly you can scale it. And every year I go to him and he's like, wow, how did you do this? But like, was never prepping me for the next year of growth. And I would kind of get screwed because my business wasn't registered the right way. Even though I had told him like, I'm going to do this, there was that sort of disbelief. There was that sort of like, not really we don't always get taken seriously, to be quite honest, as business owners. We don't always get taken as seriously as male business owners. And I think that you guys do work with a broad range of clients. And that's what I also liked, is that you all, understood my business. You work with businesses that have online income. It could kind of seem crazy to your local accountant whose business, like you said, is 40 clients within a 10-mile radius. Like, they can't understand like the growth potential that we have. And I actually had a client last year who was having a lot of growth. And what she decided to do, which I didn't really think was the best idea, to be honest, was that she actually had one member of her team learning QuickBooks and getting certified in QuickBooks. So she was paying for like the certification because it was for her business. And then she was paying for the hours that this person was doing to learn QuickBooks. And the reality is that this person could learn all this, and then something could happen, like you said, and go and find another job 2 months down the road. And she would put all that time and money into training this person who, like, it just wasn't necessary. That person could have been taking so many other tasks off her plate. But, I think it's hard to see that sometimes. We think we have solutions and we haven't really researched properly. And I'm sure you guys have seen like lots of instances of that and how to kind of probably have cleaned up a lot of messes from people who didn't.
We've done a lot of cleanup for that. And one thing that we've also seen a lot of instances that I have to point out is absolute rock star female entrepreneurs. And we have a series on our blog called The Age of the Entrepreneur. We ran a story on Priya Milani of Stash Wealth, on Ali Lozano of Amiga Lawyers. So if you're watching and you want to read some fantastic stories, those are both great. There's a couple of others, and just make sure if you sign up on that link you mentioned, Nicole referred you on the call. And so I think that the fact that there was ever that kind of lack of faith is just an absolute shame, because like thousands of our clients are entrepreneurs. Like
I've seen it, but I think that they have like a different view on it. And and honestly, it's not always comfortable for us to go into formal men with our questions, or kind of like, once again, having them in our numbers. Like, we kind of sometimes feel shame. We feel like we shouldn't be where we want to be, and it definitely can hold us back from getting the right support. So is there anything else you guys want to add? One of the things that I'd love for you guys to talk about, and then I'll tell my personal story about why I switched to benches. is there anything else about why bench versus a personal bookkeeper that is trained in bookkeeping? Is it just kind of that they're not as available and like, you know, they have maybe 40 clients?
Yeah, and I'll be honest here. So there's going to be a fit for any situation, and every client, every business is a
Right.
little different. So it's really just a matter of finding the best solution for yourself and what you can really find trust in. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say with bench in particular, yes, we'll be giving you the team, we'll be hyper efficient in getting this work done, but I think deep down, our product and our service is really just tailored around having that trust,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that people are comfortable with this not so comfortable part of their business. So I think that's going to be a very fluffy way to say it, but I really do believe that our bookkeepers and our team members, et cetera, they genuinely care for the success of their clients. And from there, it really just shows through in the work that they produce. So I think in anybody making this decision on whether they go for someone personally or whether they go with the service, really just make sure that you feel like you can trust that group. And we do everything that we can to make sure that we can do that for you guys. And I think if anything, we do actually produce a free trial for our clients first. There's going to be one previous month of bookkeeping so that they can understand what exactly they're getting out of bench. It also gives us the confidence that, hey, we could do your bookkeeping correctly and actually walk you through it. So with that, it's really just a matter of vetting out those solutions and making sure you have the right one. I will say, like, a personal bookkeeper might be a great fit if you have a very, very specific business with very specific bookkeeping needs, where they can really do have that laser focus in on those specific adjustments, those specific things, or if you need like these really fancy accrual adjustments on top of your books, that might be a great fit there. But as you can imagine, having that laser focus and that mastery comes at a cost. So you are potentially looking at an hourly bill that can fluctuate greatly over time, or you are looking at having like one-off appointments and working with this person monthly, which might not be within your time and your schedule. So that's where I think an outsourced solution like Bench would really come into play. It is that almost even ground between having a software doing a lot of the automation and making sure that you have it done efficiently, but you still have the bookkeepers on top of that, really having that level of focus and understanding of the books so that any of those one-off differences per business, those are kept in mind by your team. And it's not like you have to trust a software technology to do all this work for you, because you will find that if you just try to run these numbers through like a QuickBooks software, you're going to have this really odd set of books that's not necessarily perfect, and you still have to do a lot of cleanup after. So
Right. And actually somebody asked a question, you know, and I think this happens too with like some people have in-person businesses, you know, what happens with if your expenses, if your income sum is cash, do you kind of help people figure out how to track that and add that in? Because I think that, you know, that's something that clients get overwhelmed with. Is it just kind of pulled in from bank statements?
Yeah. So for us, there's multiple approaches, and it really comes down to what the business is and how you guys are managing this cash. I will say one thing that we do is just we want to be able to provide best practices in regards to how to approach these things. So one great example is when you take in cash and it's just sitting there, think of that as like that cash it's living in your drawer, wherever. That is honestly its own bank account. And it's tougher to track because there's no one making statements for it, like a bank would be on an ongoing basis. So the way that this would be approached on our side is twofold. So honestly, if that cash is coming in and it's not being used whatsoever, we'll be able to actually just see it when it comes into the bank account. So whenever you go deposit that, that's actually the simplest way. We can just take a look and have it come in, and then great, you've recognized your cash revenue for that month. From there, we have more complicated clients. For example, your coffee shop down the street where they ran out of milk, so they had to go across the street, take some cash out of the till, buy it, etc. That's where it becomes a little bit more complicated, where you have revenues and expenses in that little cash account in the drawer. So that's where we can still come into play. We have dedicated teams actually specializing in cash reconciliation. So that's where we can pair you up with that team, make sure that they're tracking these numbers for you with as close an eye as possible. And regardless of how that cash is being managed, they have a way of really adapting to that. So yeah.
And, you know, honestly, just a little bit personal story about why I switched over to Bench. And I had started out with, a small business solopreneur bookkeeper. And truthfully, I had looked at Bench, but I had made the assumption that I was never going to have contact with people, that I was just kind of like submitting stuff and it was going to be like all electronic. And then I'd get the report. Like I thought it was some kind of like, extensive software that I wouldn't, understand. And I didn't really look into it. And I was like, oh, I want somebody I could really, build a relationship with and talk to. And what ended up happening was she had all these limits on, how many questions I could ask. Like it was like 3 questions per quarter. And she had no really organization of systems and processes. And I'm going to be honest, like I'm not a detailed person. So I would just kind of get emails from her, which would then get lost in the shuffle. And she would not give me any like deadlines to get her stuff. So if someone doesn't give me a date, like I'm like, okay, that's not a priority. And it was not, on my side, it was like kind of an asshole thing to do. I did not feel good about how I was responding to the lack of processes, but I also was like not doing anything to change it because it just like, once again, felt like a big headache. Even though it was nice to know like a piece of it was being taken care of, I felt like I didn't really understand it. She had me doing double work. Like even though she pulled the statements, or even though all the stuff was going into QuickBooks, she was making me manually pull the statements. And when I, once again, was telling you how to go into like 4 or 5 separate accounts to pull the statements, like I really felt like crying some days. I was like, I just don't feel like doing this. Why am I stuck doing this piece? And, basically what ended up happening, which I really can't blame her, was like, I kind of was not responding to her because I was really I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm just not into like this process. And listen, like it was her process. She has a million different clients. Like she can't do my process just because, I'm not like a huge client. So I can totally understand that it's me fitting into her processes. And, what ended up happening, she was like, I don't think we're a good fit anymore. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I don't have to end it. But then I was like, oh shit, like now I'm already like another quarter behind because I never responded to her stuff. And then it was going to start to be, another 3 months behind. And I was like, oh my God, like, now I'm going to have this massive bill by somebody who has to figure everything out again and clean it up. And then I heard someone mention Bench again and how much they liked it and how they could like pop in and see everything. So I gave you guys a call. And first of all, I loved that you guys had like a free month. And if you guys are interested in that, you can go to nicolelaloya.com/bench. But I love that you had a free month so I could actually see the report, see how quick you guys worked, see what my responsibilities would be on my end. And they, once you enter all your account information, which whatever your system is that does that is very easy. It just kind of links up and then you guys have, admin access. You can't do anything with my numbers. It's totally safe, but you can kind of just get all the reports, which was like, once again, a big headache. It was a solid hour, like going into all my different accounts and it just felt like for no reason. So I loved that you guys had that. And really the only thing that I have to do is for those random expenses is, kind of let you know what they are and what category they should be in. And I mean, it's actually kind of fun, the system. Like I like writing the little comments in and like looking at it. And it also makes you look at your numbers. Like you can't ignore them. And I think a lot of business owners ignore their numbers. And what I actually see a lot of times with that, and I'd love to know for you guys, like how often you're looking at your income and expenses. Are you looking at it monthly? Are you not looking at it at all? Do you even feel scared to like log in? I know a lot of clients are like, I don't want to log into my bank account and see what happened. Like, I feel like the summer was bad. And, that's really huge for a lot of my clients. They start totaling up their income and they really see like, oh, wow, like things are good. I'm really close to my income goals. So rather than pulling back and hibernating and not looking at it, they're able to kind of go out and be more effective and go after more sales and helping more people. And, once again, like there's very minimal work on my end to get everything completed. And it does make me look at things and be more aware of what's going on. And you guys are like super accessible. Just to tell you guys about the, customer service and availability. Once again, like I was only allowed to email my bookkeeper like 3 questions every quarter or whatever. And I was like kind of never asking any questions because like I didn't want to waste any on the wrong like question. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm not going to ask anything yet. I want to save my questions. And then it was never anything. And like, you can literally set up an appointment to get a phone call, and you can email them through the messaging system, and you guys get back so quickly. And I think that one of the biggest losses of expenses that I was having was like those random expenses where, you know, maybe I didn't have my business credit card, like, or maybe it's like, for me, like, not gonna lie, I have a tendency to just like throw it in my bag, switch bags, like not put it in the wallet, switch the wallet. But then I'm like standing, you know, I live in the city, and then I'm standing at, you know, the subway to buy a new subway card for like a business meeting, a networking meeting, whatever. And I have to use my personal card.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, whatever. It's $20. It's $40, you know, whatever. It's like not a big deal. And now like I can literally pay for it, like take a picture when I'm sitting on the subway and email you guys the picture. And that's it. Like, it's like insane. That's like my favorite thing. It makes me feel like more professional when I'm out. Like, it makes me feel like a better boss and business owner, because I literally have to like do nothing. Like, it's right there. It's not anything that like weighs on my mind. I don't have to wait to get home and like scan something or whatever, and then like put it in a Google folder and then make sure that they know. Like, it just like cuts down the process so quickly.
Yeah, I love that feature about Bench. I just like, that's one of the, like, my favorite little feature is just having the,
I feel like a private, my own personal email. It's not going to like a mass thing. It's literally like a special Bench email with my name on it, so it goes straight to my account. And I even like sent it and immediately emailed them because I was like nervous I had the wrong account, or like I was just like, hey, did you get my first one? And like I felt bad because then I like clicked back over to my email and I already had like an email that you guys had received it. So in the meantime, I like gone to check with, you know, the account person, but you guys, like, that's how quick the system is to even let you know that it's received. So you don't have to like, kind of like, once again, like a huge thing for me is, you know, I have very bad focus. I have shiny object syndrome, like, and I'm trying to like, balance all those things in my head. And it's just kind of like weighing on my, like sapping up my energy. So that's like my personal, you know, story for why I switched over, why I even, you know, just realized, like I told you guys, you know, a couple of years ago, that I could not do the book. Like, I wasn't even doing book. I wouldn't even call it that, bookkeeping, what I was doing. An Excel file thingy that I was doing every year. And then I will like not even know, like, what did I save the file as last year? You know, and like, what did I save the spreadsheet as last year? And I'd be doing like random searches trying to figure out like where it even was for me to look at to figure out the stuff for the next year. So it's totally amazing to have it all in one place. And you know, it's crazy because the cost was the same as what I was paying that person. Plus I had to pay for QuickBooks on top of it. Which I felt like I wasn't even using. I know she was, but because I had no clue how it worked. And like, once again, we have so many things to learn. We have to do email softwares. We have to do sales pages. We have all these other tech things to manage and worry about. So to kind of take that off the table was like so insanely helpful.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the key things with us. For our design philosophy, there's two main things that we really focus on. One is hyper efficiency. So making sure that our team can be as efficient as possible in producing that work. And I think you experienced this, Nicole, with us going back and doing historical work for you. We have clients who purchase 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of bookkeeping with us. And for them, there's honestly no other option other than to do it themselves and just like troop through your vacation, or outsource it to someone else. And for us in particular, we can get a year back to you within 3 weeks. And then for something like 5 years, we have turnaround times that can honestly be back within 5 if we really wanted to have a laser focus on it. So I think that's one of the key things. And then
you guys had like 5 months of back stuff to do for me, and I think it was done in like a week. Like, I think you said it might take 2 weeks, and I think honestly it was like less than a week. And I think the other thing that you guys did that was really helpful, like, it was kind of something that I was like, like I was like kind of annoyed about, like, you kept scheduling calls with me, and like you were literally like very like, let's schedule the call right now. And it's the kind of thing that feels annoying, but it really, like, you need that accountability, you know, in the beginning to kind of get the system set up. And because you guys did that, I was able to set things up like so quickly within a couple weeks. Whereas like, once again, when I signed on with that person, I had to go through years of stuff myself to get her like, I didn't have to do any, I just had to log into my accounts. Like, I didn't have to do anything else. Whereas with her, like, once again, I had to pull all these reports for her. I had to tell her all these things, and I had to like kind of save them up to tell her because I didn't want to send too many emails because of like the limits. Whereas for you guys, it's like every time I think of something, I just like drop it in. I'm like, what do I do about this expense that I have that there's no documentation for, and we figure out how to, you guys actually have told me how to pull documentation for it, which I wouldn't have even thought about. But it's just those like kind of random things. It's not anything that are big deals, but it was big deals with the other system that I was using, with the other person that I was using. So you guys were able to clean it up very quickly. And with the free month, I was able to really just experience how quick and easy it was. And I think that is an important thing, is really testing it out. Like, I didn't have to pay anything to test it out. And I'm just going to pop up the link on the screen right now so you guys can take it and access it and get your free month and see honestly how easy it is. And honestly, even just, take it as an example of, how, once again, how easy it is, but also what it looks like to have your numbers done for a month. Because I think that's the other thing. I know you guys don't even know what it's like to have those numbers done because you haven't been organized about it, most likely. Or, you've been using that other person and, it's not that helpful. It's not that great. So you guys, and this is basically, about $119, or maybe more depending on your level of income. But it is for free. It's a great way to kind of get started. And if you decide to sign up, they do give you guys, which they don't give to everyone, is 6 months at 20% off if you decide to go further. So, I mean, you can very easily, once again, take care of the past year, pretty much almost the whole entire past year, with the 6 months of discount and the 1 month free, or you can be prepped for moving forward. So I would say, like, honestly, you guys, even if you're really uncomfortable, like doing the back stuff, at least, give them a call, get going for forward. So that way you're prepped for the end of this year. You have less to pull together, and going into the new year of 2020, you'll already be set up and comfortable with your systems. Mm-hmm. So if you guys have any questions at all, like, feel free to email me, Nicole@NicoleLeloy.com, or, once again, you can leave a comment or question on the replay. But, definitely take advantage of this free month. That is really kind of what got me to feel comfortable, because I knew I wouldn't have to pay for a trial where, once again, with the last person, I had to automatically pay. And then I was kind of like not into it, but I was stuck. I was already stuck and it's honestly, she had to do about 5 months of back stuff for me. And it took her, I think, like, I felt like it took her like maybe a couple months, just to pull together before I could even see anything or see what it would be like. And I thought that was totally normal. Like, I thought that was it, the only option. So you guys will literally have, if you want to do the rest of the year, you will have it in a couple of weeks, tops. So thank you so much, guys, for coming today. I don't know if you have anything else to add. If you feel like we didn't cover something, I feel like we did an amazing job. I'll just give us props.
I think, yeah, that was. Thank you so much for having us.
So helpful, and I really appreciate clarifying it, because I know, I still feel like bookkeeping is a little bit of a mystery, but it can stay that way. It's done. I feel safe. It's taken care of. I do understand the after process, but like, I don't have to get how you guys do it. You know what I mean? It's one less thing for me to learn or manage. So once again, you guys, make sure you grab this. Just go to Nicole. Oh shoot, I actually am giving the wrong link on this. Let me delete that. NicoleLeloy.com/bench. And grab that free month. And if you guys have any questions, or, let me know how you like it. I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. And feel free to come to us with questions as well. We are always happy to help. And when you do get connected and actually start that free trial, I will say there's going to be someone reaching out to you to actually guide you through this process. Yeah. These people are going to answer your questions, really help you through, and then you'll actually have someone walk you through your completed financials too. So you know exactly what you're getting. So honestly, feel free to come to those appointments with questions.
They're not as bad as you may think they are. It's really easy, and it was kind of like, it made it so much easier to go through it with someone rather than once again be stuck trying to figure out like a random QuickBooks report or a random pulled together bookkeeping report on your own.
Yeah.
And I mean, grow the business you love and let us take care of the bookkeeping.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone, have a great day. Remember to head over to that link, NicoleLaloya.com/bench, to check it out, check things out more. And if you need anything at all, just let me know. All right, bye.
Thanks for having us.